Hello, all you happy people. How you doing? It is another Sunday. We're back again, and this time we are in July. That's right. We are into the second half of 2026 already. Isn't that mind blowing? Just it's 2026 already. We've had the 4th of July. It's behind us now. That's just mind blowing. Oh, how are you guys doing? I hope everybody survived the holiday with all digits attached. See, I got all 10. I am not a fireworks person. And there's a very simple reason for that because I didn't really love them, but I didn't hate them. And then when I was 28, I moved to Anaheim, California. And I lived on just off a street called Ball near State College. And if you know Anaheim at all, you know that maybe half a mile to the west and half a mile south from that location is a place called Disneyland. That's right. I used to sit at my desk working, and every night at 9:35, fireworks would start going off, and I could see from my office window. Now, fireworks are fun once a year. Not only did I get them every night, but about a mile away in the other direction, maybe not even a mile, was Anaheim Stadium. And they would light off fireworks whenever somebody hit a home run. So at night, it was likely that I would be hearing fireworks constantly. Fireworks over here at 9:35, fireworks over there, depending on how well the teams are doing, back and forth. It got old. You get kind of burned out on fireworks. And then when I ended up back where I am now, and we had 2 dogs, neither one of them were really good with fireworks. And my brother, who was living here at the time, loved fireworks and would buy a lot of fireworks and would go in the street and just launch some, and the neighbors would all come out and watch them and ooh and ah. And I knew the dogs were going crazy, so I would go in the house and I would take the dogs into a room with me, and I would, stay with the dogs to try to keep them calm, keep them feeling safe. So yeah, fireworks never really aren't that big a deal for me. As it was last night locally, the fireworks started before it was even dark and continued till about 1 a.m. Now I've got this weird strip of windows at the top of our outer wall of our house, which brings lovely light in. You know, it's nice. The problem is that when the fireworks are going off all evening, it's going through that window constantly. So even if you're trying to go to sleep in the bedroom, you get the sound, you get the lights, yeah. So my 4th of July traditions are a little different than most. I will sit down and watch 1776 and maybe Hamilton if I've got the time, and just try to ignore it, the fireworks. Because, like I said, they just don't mean much to me anymore. So, so no, you probably aren't going to find me losing a digit to fireworks anytime. If it is, there's a MacGyver reason or something. There's a story. So, all right. Well, I hope you're all doing well. The chat is open for comments. Tonight we are going to talk about there's 3 different movies I had a chance to see. One's called Fackham Hall that came out in 2025, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. Another one that we just happened onto the other night, and I've been meaning to watch but hadn't got around to. Hey, Ed, is Predator Badlands. Finally got to watch that. And then, of course, I got over to the theater Friday morning to see Supergirl. So I do want to talk about that now that I have the whole movie in my head. Also, some of the reports that are coming out. So we're going to talk about those three things. I am watching The Bear. I think I'm 3 or 4 episodes in. So the final season, I have to get through that before I talk about it. I did not get a chance to watch No Time to Die yet. That's on the schedule. We'll make that happen. I accidentally came up with an idea for a good take for an absolute version of a DC character. One that, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't done yet. And normally I come up with these ideas and I'm like, yeah. I don't really know anybody at DC right now. I don't have any inroads. So I'll just kind of log that in the back of my mind. But I got to say, I really like this idea. So, and I ran it by an artist friend of mine, Jason, who does the covers for the Lucius Fogg books. And I told him what the idea was. And he liked it. And then some new ideas came that actually made it even more intense. Hey, Kat, how you doing? So I don't want to say too much about the idea, but I am going to try to put the full pitch together. And if I can get it into the hands of an editor over at DC, I'm going to try. Just because even if they say no, it's a good practice, but I like this idea. I think it really fits the absolute universe. The idea of these characters without hope, you know? So I am gonna from the if you look on my Facebook page, I did post who the character is. So I guess I could say that here. I want to do a 4-issue miniseries of Absolute Deadman. I have a unique approach to the character, to the way to change him for the absolute universe and give it much more of a horror vibe. And I haven't done a lot of horror writing in a few years. I mean, that's how I got started in the industry, was doing horror stuff with Steve Niles and working on 30 Days of Night and some of the stuff with him, and then doing the stuff at Zenoscope. So, gonna flex my horror muscles again. Which, as you guys know, I'm not a big horror fan from watching point of view, but I've always thought the key to horror isn't knowing what is scary and what isn't scary. It's what scares you. What is absolutely horrifying to you? Because if you tap into the things that scare you, you're going to bring that across to the reader. So yeah, I'm going to continue focusing with that plan. I appreciate that, Ed. What's funny is the Sleepy Hollow story is the female lead is based on Lisa, who I talk about, who I'm currently engaged to. It was my relationship with her is the interaction between the two main characters in that. So I'm not saying that she's just like that, but the way her and I banter is similar to how I wrote the characters in Sleepy Hollow. She's a much worse person. Kat says, I got to see Supergirl, and so I'm interested in your thoughts. Did I miss it? Nope, we are absolutely going to talk about Supergirl. So I just wanted to give some more time for people to come. Like I said, there's two other movies I saw this week that I want to mention. Let me go ahead, but I wanted to just say that I am working on a pitch for an absolute book. And again, I don't know anybody over there. It's a long, long shot. So it may just be an exercise for me, but what the hell? It's good practice, right? So, all right. First movie I want to talk about is written by Jimmy Carr, the British comedian. It's called Fackham Hall. And I got pulled into it because the trailer looked to me like it was a spoof on uh, old style Agatha Christie type murder mysteries. It was, kind of a Hercule Poirot type thing. And it's not that. It's much more of a spoof on Downton Abbey. So I went into it with that, but it reminds me a lot of the old Mel Brooks movies, where it's just joke after joke, and you've got to watch the scenery, you've got to watch the background. There's a lot of really funny things snuck in there that they don't pay a lot of attention to. But it's good cast. Includes Tom Felton, the guy that played Draco Malfoy in the Harry Potter movies. I'm not going to give it like a super high rating because, like I said, it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but I enjoyed it enough. It was a nice distraction for a couple hours. And there are some really good jokes. There are some really bad jokes too. One of the best ongoing bit in it is Jimmy Carr as the vicar or the priest or whatever you want to call him. And he has this tendency when he's reading his speeches to run into the next sentence. But when you add the part of the next sentence, it becomes this very horrible thing. Jokes about priests touching kids and stuff like that. But then he pauses and goes back and reads it with the actual pause break. And you're like, oh, okay. And he gets a good half a dozen laughs off of that format, which is pretty interesting. The plot is crystal clear. Just there's no twists, no turns. You see it coming a long way, but there's enough humor in it that it's worth giving it a shot. So let's see. Jay says playing Evil West, but wanted to drop a like and say hi. The game is Red Dead, Resident Evil, Old West, Steampunk. I'm loving it. Oh, thanks for popping in, Jay. Playing Evil West. Hey, Krypton, how you doing? News about bits of Supergirl finally explained what happened. There was a clash between... Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. But I wouldn't call that a clash. But we're going to get to that. The other movie I want to talk about before we get to Supergirl, and like I said, we're going to get Supergirl pretty quickly, is we came across Predator Badlands. I hadn't seen that one yet. And Lisa wanted to watch it. And I thought, well, I'll zone out, play on my phone. But it was totally not what I expected. It was, it wasn't really it didn't feel like a Predator movie to me because Predator to me, the Predator is the shark. It's the bad guy. So you suddenly put him in the good guy character and you change the whole premise. It's kind of like when Star Trek went from the Klingons being the ultimate bad guys to, oh, we have a Klingon science officer, or not science officer, security officer. It's an adjustment, but overall, I thought it was an entertaining movie. Haven't watched Spree yet. That's not by the same director, right? Dan Trachtenberg. So I'm going to have to give that a shot. He also did the animated one. So I guess that's kind of in his wheelhouse now. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting movie. I liked a lot of the sci-fi aspects, and it was an interesting conversation Lisa and I had the other day. I saw an ad for the latest Avatar movie, and I haven't watched any of them because I don't know. Maybe it's the alien design I don't like. Maybe it's what I've heard about. It's just like Pocahontas done in space. But I haven't really watched the alien movies. It or not aliens, the Avatar movies. They just don't interest me, especially when they first came out. The thing I heard so much about was the special effects. Oh, this looks so good. Oh, that looks so good. And I kept going, well, what's the story? Is it a good story? Are there good characters and stuff? And nobody was talking about that. So I kind of just skipped it. And the new ones haven't got my attention either. But when I said it, Lisa's response was, well, you don't like sci-fi. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean I don't like sci-fi? Well, you don't like sci-fi. I'm like, I grew up reading sci-fi. I like sci-fi movies. Star Trek, Star Wars, Terminator. I saw the original Predator in the theater. I grew up reading the Mission Earth series. I mean, yeah, the author went into weird directions later, but yeah, I mean, so I've been trying to figure out what it is about Avatar that I don't like. But so that was kind of, so she kind of pushed me. She was like, well, you say you like hey Gil, how you doing, sir? You say you like sci-fi, so let's watch Predator. I went, all right. So we watched Predator Badlands, and it was a lot, like I said, it was better than I expected, but it was different than I expected too. It was a lot less horror, a lot more sci-fi action, but I liked it. So, all right, let me catch up real quick here. Yeah, they gave the character personality, and you immediately sympathize with him when he gets ostracized by his parents, by his father, and then his brother gets killed trying to protect him. You feel for the guy, and that's new for a Predator movie. It says the only downside to Prey was the CGI animal looked well bad. So glad they didn't CGI the Predator in Prey. Took the family to see the first Avatar in IMAX. It was gorgeous, but the movie wasn't good to me. None of us really liked it, so we haven't watched the sequels. Yeah, see, I don't know, just something about it doesn't get my attention. Turk is his name, Predator Badlands. He was written to be an outcast of his clan. Yeah. I thought it was Den, but yeah. Avatar with the tall blue people. We saw that, but it was very predictable. There wasn't anything. Yeah, see, that's the thing is that Avatar just seems like it's just standard story. So if the only reason for me to come in and watch your movie are the digital effects, and then I don't exactly find your aliens to be that interesting, then I don't see a reason to come see your movie. So, all right. So since Supergirl is the topic everybody seems to want to talk about, my thoughts on the movie first. I went and saw it at super early. I went. There was a 9:10 showing here at the Puente Hills Mall, and we got in there. And then after like a half hour of really bad previews, I don't think any of the trailers I saw before the movie made me want to go see another movie. They were all just. There was one that was like a retrospect of Tom Cruise's career, and then at the end they show, oh, he's got a movie out coming out called The Digger. What any of his previous movies have to do with Digger, I don't know. But that's what they did. And I'm like, really? That's how you're going to promote? We all know Tom Cruise. You don't need to remind us how much stuff Tom Cruise was in. We know Cocktail. We know Top Gun. We know Mission Impossible, Day and Night, and all these other movies. We don't Collateral. We don't need a reminder of how many movies Tom Cruise has been in. We need to know what your movie's about, and they didn't really tell us. So, and since I'm not the biggest Sam Worthington fan either, he does. Yeah, I can see that. Kat says she doesn't even remember the trailers. And you know what? That's the thing is right now I'm trying to think of what the trailers were, and none of them. There was one. Lisa looked over me and went, "I want to see that." And I went, "Okay." I know there was one. I think it was Spa Weekend or something that looked really, really bad. But anyway, all right. So, Supergirl. Overall, I actually liked the movie. It's not a perfect movie. I thought the opening with Krem killing the family, and by the way, I put the spoiler warnings up, so because I want to be able to talk a little freely about this. But I thought the whole opening was a bit choppy, and I felt like we could get a little more. By the way, we've got a lot of people watching right now, so do me a favor, hit the like buttons. I never get that many likes, so it'd be really nice if you guys could hit the like buttons for me. Um, so yeah, it was a little choppy. I thought it could have been a little clean, and there was a couple points in the movie, once in the beginning, where we get this straight on shot of Ruthie, and it looks like she's on a green screen. And I don't want that moment. I don't want to feel like I'm looking at somebody standing in front of a green screen. So that is something that I think they should have worked on. But overall, I thought the setup was pretty good. I thought Millie Alcock was great. I had no problem with her as Supergirl. And oh, I should probably state I've read Woman of Tomorrow, the trade paper or the series that this was loosely based on. I don't hold it in as high a regard as a lot of people do. I think it's a good book. I don't think it's a great book. Part of my problem is the same thing with All Star Superman, is where I appreciate the talent of the artist. It's not a style that I'm particularly fond of. So, in both cases, the books get a little knocked down for me because it's not an art style I really like. So, I'm really just looking at the story. Now, The fact that it's different than the comics, A, you should expect that. For one reason, the Supergirl we get in Woman of Tomorrow, the comic, is almost this mythological icon because it's told from Ruthie's point of view, and she is much more established, much more mature, and is in a place in her life where she could do something like take the time to go with Ruthie and show her, this trip and how to not kill, how to keep your innocence, and how, help her adjust for her mourning and stuff like that. The Supergirl we get in this movie, she's a wreck. She is in mourning herself. She has lost her entire planet. She doesn't know where she fits in. She doesn't know who she is and why she's even around anymore. So that is a very different Supergirl. So that's going to give us a very different movie. Now, other parts of it, I thought her interactions with Ruthie were good. I thought, yes, Jason Momoa Lobo was kind of squeezed in, but I liked it. I liked where he was squeezed in. His moments were interesting, but again, some of the fight scenes were choppy. So his big moment where he gets his bounty could have been or should have been a lot better. It's just cut, head drop in the bag. We should have seen a little bit more of that. So, David Cornsweet was great in the scenes he was in. The CG in most places were good, but there were some glitchy places. So again, it feels like it could have been done a little better in places. But I thought the basic story, and it's a basic story. It's True Grit. We've seen this story before. Did Jason call her tits? Yes. Yes, once he did call her that once. The Reverend 2015 Emmanuel Lubezek cinematography would have been a better choice for Supergirl. Okay. Yeah, but that's like I said, the movie was on par with a lot of the Marvel movies in my book. A lot of the early Marvel, your first Thor movie is probably pretty even for me. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. When it comes out on HBO Max, I will probably watch it again. I don't know if I'll go back to the theater and watch it again, but I'd give it a solid 7.5 because I thought the characters were good. And I thought, okay, Kat's making it clear she didn't mean that the movie was horrible, but it was predictable. And yeah, there was a lot of it that was predictable. But again, what are we comparing it to? See, that's my biggest problem right now is you got to compare. This is a movie like True Grit or John Wick. So your villains aren't going to be super in depth because they're not supposed to be in this kind of movie. They're supposed to be, like I said last week, a MacGuffin, an evil thing to go after. Your story is the growth between the main character and the young girl. And it was the same thing in True Grit. John Wick didn't have that. John Wick was just him in mourning. But Vigo's son wasn't a very in-depth character. I'd be impressed if anybody can name Vigo's son, because I've only ever known him as Vigo's son. You know, even when I talk to my Lisa's son Braden, who loves the John Wick movies, he just refers to the kid as Vigo's son. So I liked Millie Alcock a lot. I think the character was really good, was well established, and will carry over well into the rest of the universe. Um, I think I think if there's any problems, it was in the directing and editing. And that's going to bring us to the point that Krypton brought up. Now, he's referring to his creative disagreements, and that is how the Hollywood Reporter spun it. Because first thing you guys got to keep in mind is that there is no straightforward news anymore. There's always an agenda one way or the other. So you can make it sound any way you like it. You want a good example? Do you know that Supergirl is the best opening weekend that Craig Gillespie ever had for any of his movies, including I, Tonya and Cruella? Okay. I mean, Cruella's big Disney villain. You think that would get, and if you took his last four movies, Dumb Money, Cruella, I, Tonya, and The Finest Hours, you combine them together, they still don't make as much opening weekend that Supergirl did. Also, the Supergirl movie made 6 times what the last Supergirl movie made. So, yeah, you can spin it to make it sound positive. You can spin it to make it sound negative. Now, what happened with the movie? They let Craig Gillespie have his creative freedom. He brought in a film and they did test audiences on it. And the scores in the test audiences were all in the 60s. Now, the highest score any cut of this film got was a 70. And we don't know which version got the 70. Now, what they say is that they let him cut it a couple times, and he was using the same editor that he used with I, Tonya. And then the studio said, another test screening, it didn't do well. So the studio brought in one of James Gunn's normal editors. They brought in another writer to work with Anna DeGuerra. He didn't do it without her. They worked together to redo some shoots and put together another cut. But they came up with 2 cuts. One cut with Craig Gillespie's editor and Craig Gillespie. The other cut done by the editor from Guardians of the Galaxy. And they tried both of them with test audiences. Now, Gillespie's cut scored better with musical choices, and it scored better with the villain. They had a better understanding of the villain, and it was basically 11 minutes longer. But its overall score was less than the score that the studio editor got. So there's not creative differences here. What there is the studio taking the material that was filmed and trying to put together the best possible version. They tried 2 different ways. They compared them, and then pick the one that scored the best. That is standard stuff for filming. Now, there are people who have come out who saw the test screenings, who saw the one with the longer scenes of creme and the different music. And this is multiple people have come out, and they say that it isn't that much difference. You get a little more creme, but other places it's lacking, and it didn't make that much of a difference. So I think the bottom line is they filmed everything. They came to the point where they had what they had, and they put together 2 edits and picked the one that scored the best and put it out, which is exactly what a studio is supposed to do. Okay? Did Anna need a co-writer? We don't know that, because we don't know what got cut. We don't know what her script is before it got filmed. So you got to remember that when you start shooting, you start with the script, but the editor or the director makes changes as he goes. He films things certain ways. So it's really hard to look and go, that's the problem. There are some really great moments in that movie, some really touching moments. All the stuff on Argo City, the quieter moments where Kara is talking to Ruthie, the moments between Kara and Kal-El or Clark, those are all really good scenes. Those all came from Ana Nogueira as well. So let's see. Talking Supergirl, I haven't seen it. I'll wait until streaming because I've never even heard of her. From the trailer, it looked like it should be a Netflix movie, so I'm waiting. Okay. You know, that's the thing, is that if you looked at the trailer and the trailer didn't get your attention, then don't go see it. But if you look at the online discourse, which is biased in so many different directions, then you should judge for yourself. And when it comes out on streaming, you should judge for yourself. So the bottom line is there are a lot of people out there right now who really liked the movie, and there's a lot of people out there who didn't. Looking at the box office, yes, we can factor in the fact that it didn't do that well. But there's a group of people who are negatively campaigning against it. We're in a time where it's rare for people to go out and see movies nowadays. I mean, look at the Minions. Minions and Monsters that just opened this weekend. They were expecting it to do a domestic opening around 80 million, and it's barely 60 million. Because people are broke. Look at the economy we have right now. Kat said right there, not worth spending a lot of money on. That's the thing. It is a lot of money. I went to a 9 a.m. showing and paid $15 a ticket for a 9 a.m. showing. So gas prices are insanely high. Food prices are insanely high. Nobody is throwing money around like crazy. The days of people going to the movies just because they want to go out and go to the movies, that's long gone. The pandemic took away a lot of that. And then just inflation and the cost of things. Also, you got to look at a character like Superman and Supergirl aren't playing as well overseas because they're tied to America. And the opinion of America right now is not the best in the world. Superman 2025 did better in the domestic box office than Man of Steel, but Man of Steel did a little better in the foreign markets because when it came out, it was a different time. People had different opinions of America. So a character so closely tied to America was more acceptable. There are some countries who didn't even let Superman open in there. So keep that in mind. Yes, the movie has flaws. Is it worth watching on streaming? Absolutely. Is it worth watching in the theater? I don't regret going. I enjoyed it. I came out of it liking it. Lisa came out of it liking it. Again, could have been better. Could have been a lot worse. Okay. I saw Thor Love and Thunder. It can be a lot worse. I saw Morbius. I saw Madam Web. I'll take Supergirl over those any day. So, again, I think the characters were great. I think the plot was a little transparent, but again, it's True Grit. We know the plot for True Grit or John Wick, or, it's just a simple revenge story. And the character was very different than the character in the comic because she was a different point of her life. So, and that's the majority of the stuff that I hear. The majority of negativity I hear online is about her looks, which just, I cannot believe that's even a discussion. The needle drop at the end. So many people are upset because they played a cover version of The Middle. It's like, really? That's upset you? Now, I get it wasn't the most amazing needle drop. I came out of Superman with that song, I'm a Punk Rocker, in my head for weeks. This one didn't do it. But is it horrible? Did it ruin the movie? That's a bit extreme. Or there's all the people who are claiming that it wasn't the comic. It wasn't as bright as the comic and stuff. And it's like, they weren't trying to do a one-to-one adaptation of the comic. So, again, I enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing it again when it hits streaming. I will pick up a Blu-ray copy or a 4K copy and put it next to my Superman copy. And look forward to see what's next, which is Lanterns. Because, like I said, I enjoyed it. All right, let's go back a little and check, make sure I'm getting everybody's comments. Let's see. James could have stepped in on Craig Reed, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Now, again, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is a different story. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow would not work in this universe. Could they have pulled more parts of it? Could they have pulled some different things from it? Sure. But overall, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is a fairy tale told by Ruthie, where this was supposed to be a not coming of age story, but a movie about Kara finding herself and finding her place in the world. They're different movies. So let's see. What else is it? Taking a break, watched it twice, really dug it, put it up there with Superman. Nice double feature for me. It's not for everyone, and I get that. Yeah, see, Jay, great. Again, you liked it. It clicked for you. It clicked for mostly for me. Again, little scenes, little cuts. I'd be curious to see what was in um, Gillespie's version, but I don't think it's oh my God, they were fighting and going back and forth. If they were that negative, if they were that at each other's throats, Craig Gillespie wouldn't have gone out and done the press tour as much as he did, hyping it. If he wasn't happy with it, he would have been like, well, I'm not going to do the press tour, or you can always tell when a director drops out of stuff like that the movie isn't what he wanted it to be. That's not the case here. Gillespie was out there talking it up just as much as the actors involved. So let's see. Let's see. Kat didn't like it as much as Superman, and that's, again, I can see why. I can see the good and the bad. I think it's a good companion to Superman, but not as good of a film. Jay likes Man of Steel more than Superman. Now, I'll disagree with him on that, but I understand. Man of Steel was a pretty good movie. I don't think it was necessarily a good Superman movie, but it was a pretty good movie. So, and it had its moments. It had its iconic moments and stuff. So it's what Zack Snyder does well, but it just never felt like Superman to me. True Grit is one of my favorite Westerns. The Rattlesnake Pit still gives me the heebie-jeebies. There you go. Different strokes, different folks, Kat. I also like Thunderbolts, and most people didn't. Now, see, I think a lot of people like Thunderbolts. I think a lot of people didn't know what Thunderbolts was. But I think the people that went in to see Thunderbolts with an open mind, or actually went and saw it, liked it. So, Edge, you've heard that one too. It was weird. They went with an Elseworld story for a main continuity movie. Yeah. Craig said he never read The Woman of Tomorrow. He read Anna's script. Well, you know what? That makes sense. Anna read the comic and pulled the script out of it. And they weren't going to make the comic. They were making Anna's script. So him reading the script, if he had read the comic, it would have affected him differently. And again, I bring this back. You can't do Woman of Tomorrow. That's why they took the name Woman of Tomorrow off the movie, because they couldn't do a one-to-one adaptation. It is based, or is inspired by Woman of Tomorrow, but the Supergirl coming into the movie is a very different Supergirl. So some of the things that happen in the comic couldn't happen in the movies. Plus, the frickin' horse is weird. They couldn't put the horse in here. Come on, be serious. All right. Yeah, but yeah, so Craig read the script he was supposed to direct and found his story. That's, again, normal for a director. but definitely she needed to read Woman of Tomorrow, and she did. So much so that she wasn't sure what about the ending. And I got to tell you, I wasn't that sure about the ending either. It's kind of a weird ass ending, you know. But again, I am not as in love with the Woman of Tomorrow comic as a lot of people are out there. Just like I'm not as in love with All Star Superman as some people are out there. So I'm definitely becoming the get off my lawn guy. All these newfound comics, can't you just go back and do the good ones? You know, I don't want Court of Owls, I want Hush. Let's see. Thunderbolts was a movie Jay told me and Mr. K. It was a Marvel movie. Dan, did you see Cat's question about crypto? I did not. Let me go back. The Supergirl movie wasn't horrible, but it was predictable. My problem, other than Superman, there wasn't any I really cared about except for the dog. My son hated it. Maybe I'm not seeing the crypto. My son wanted to know why she didn't take the dog to a yellow sun to heal it. I'm not sure what he means, but he thought it was dumb. Okay. So, answer to that question is kind of an odd one, but depending on the poison, if she would have taken him, if the yellow sun wouldn't cure the poison, and maybe it wouldn't, then taking him to a planet with the yellow sun would make it impossible to inject the dog with the antidote. So if the yellow sun would have made him better, then yeah, going to a yellow sun would have been right. But if he still needed the antidote for the poison, then yeah. So we don't know how far into the system. They didn't explain it, but there are reasons why going to a yellow sun. So, but no, they didn't do a good job explaining that. Let's see, that explained it in the movie. Moving crypto would have accelerated the poison. Okay, there you go. Not likely by a whole margin, Dan. They're very neck and neck. Superman 2025, second only. Christopher Superman 2. I love Superman 2. Okay. I don't know. Maybe it's recency bias, but there's campiness in the Christopher Reeve Superman, and I'm not a fan of campy. The over the top way that he does Clark Kent always bothered me. I had a problem with those scenes growing up. Man of Steel was, again, a really interesting hero movie. It just didn't feel like Superman to me, where, and Brandon Routh just felt like he was trying to do a Christopher Reeve's imitation. As much as I like Brandon Routh, I think he was given bad direction. So Superman 2025 to me has become my favorite Superman movie because it feels the most like the Superman that I connected to in the comics. Now the fact is that Superman changes depending on who's writing it, who or what the story is, what the age it's being written for, that type of thing. So everybody has a different version of Superman to them. For me, the David Cornsweet version most connects mostly or the most to that. So just like right now, the Robert Pattinson Batman connects most to the Batman I want to see, which is lucky for me because those are the two being made right now. I have problems with the other versions. Christian Bale's was good, but it just felt, it never felt like Bale enjoyed playing the character. It always felt like that he's just doing it now because it's the next on the list, where Pattinson, I kind of feel, enjoys being Batman. So, cool, Cat. There was no difference between Supes and Clark in Man of Steel. Yeah, I mean, there was barely any Clark in Man of Steel. Um, but that's the thing, is that some of the things that people pick on the most in Superman, like him saving a squirrel, him worried about trying to bring the kaiju character in, creature in alive, those things. Those are at the heart of Superman's character. And it didn't feel like they were there with Superman. And I will be completely honest, the whole death of Pa Kent in Man of Steel just took me out of the movie. It did. Because there's no way that he would have just sat there and allowed him to be sacrificed like that. And they could have fixed it in so many ways. He could have raced in, pulled him out, but pulling him out, the strain on being moved that quickly gave him a heart attack. They could have done so many different things. And it was just like, what moment? And why are both Pa Kent, Jonathan Kent, and Jor-El getting hero moments in this movie? That seemed kind of weird to me. And all the weird advice that Jonathan gave him about, no, you could just let people die. Got to keep your secret. I mean, that's all really strange. I kind of feel that Zack Snyder got obsessed with the idea as Superman is a Christ allegory and forced it down that path. And that's never supposed to have been the character. That's something that people did later with the character. But yeah, so it felt wrong to me. So I remember watching it and liking it at the time, but it's one of those that when I go back, it starts to fall apart for me, Man of Steel, where I've watched Superman 2025 a ridiculous amount of times. And it holds up for me. But again, that's the Superman I want to see. Your Superman may vary. And so there are some things in Superman 2 that Superman wouldn't do. He wouldn't crush Zod's hand after taking away superpowers, and he wouldn't have done the revenge at the diner scene either. That is true. I love the movie, but I can definitely pick it apart. Yeah. But it was still a fun movie. It was one of the first movies I saw indoor theaters, nostalgia. Okay. Yeah, I saw the first Superman at a drive-in theater. I think I saw Superman 2 the same way. Again, there's your Superman 2 is your ultimate studio interference. They fired Richard Donner and brought someone else in to finish it. But Superman is a tough character because, again, he's been around since 1938. He's going to be, it's just like 80 some odd years, almost 90 years. He's been written by hundreds of different writers, each one focusing on different aspects of the character, taking him in different directions. We see Elseworlds versions of him, and we see all these different things. and people see in him what they want to see in him. So we get these different interpretations. So, and I think that is the way with a lot of characters. I think Batman's the same way. Um, the Marvel Universe isn't as bad as that because they're newer characters in that, they were created 30 years later, and there's been a very much more strict control over the characters, mostly. There's been some weird stuff there too, but mostly. And since I was never a fan of Man of Steel or Batman versus Superman, I did like Snyder's Justice League, though. Zack Snyder makes good-looking movies, but I don't necessarily think he gets the characters that, I think he's too much in love with Alan Moore and Frank Miller and wants those versions of the characters where they were never the mainstream versions. So I think that's why that universe didn't click with the fans as much, didn't click with all the fans as much as, say, the new one is. So, but man, the ones who loved it, they ain't giving it up, are they? All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. So great seeing everybody hop in. At one point, we had like 30 people here. I don't think we ever had that many. So, but appreciate everybody coming in and appreciate everybody involved in the conversation. Supergirl is for you to judge. I liked it. I saw enough in it good that I was happy I went to see it. But there's definitely things they could have done better. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And I'll watch it again. There you go, Jay. Good attitude. Yep. And my attitude is I want all these movies to succeed because that's how we get more. I never want to see a movie. And that's the other thing. I never want to see any movie go in and flop because hundreds of people work on these things. These are jobs. These are people, careers. So, yeah, that's what I want people to enjoy the movies. I want them to do well and lead to more movies. But if the box office is dropping as much as it is, we might be in for big changes. So, all right, sorry on that downer note, but let me wrap that up here. I believe dinner is almost ready, so I'm going to get going. I hope you all have a great week. I will see you again next week, where hopefully I'll get No Time to Die watch, and we'll see what else we have to talk about. So take care. See you soon. Have a great one.